events that are happening in the country, and it is all about the news. And one of the announcements that we are expecting today is the Agano Party manifesto that is going to be launched today, and the presidential candidate under the Agano Party is Mwaure Wahiga, and he is going to be making that announcement from 11 a.m. That is the time that has been scheduled. So that is one of the stories that we shall be following up today. And also happening, the campaigns, the UDA team is in Mombasa, and the Azimio la Umoja, One Kenya Coalition Party, they will be in Narok today. And also happening, and today we've got the launch of the monitoring and oversight tools for the implementation of the National Spatial Plan for the year 2015-2045 and the National Land Use Policy of 2017. This is happening at Upper Hill, and we've got the Devolution Cabinet Secretary, Eugenia Wamalwa, who is going to be presiding that. And also, the government spokesperson, Colonel Retired Cyrus Oguna, is going to be talking to beneficiaries of funds that have been have come as subventions to people who are there, and that is at his offices in Nairobi. Part of the stories that we are keeping up with this morning. And also on Sports Check, we have conversations about every team that's taking part, and today we're going to have two conversations. All are about speed and explosive power, incidentally. The second hour, we shall be talking about drag racing. It's going to be taking place at Masinga, at an airstrip that is just around Masinga Dam, and that is known as the Sunset Corsa. That's from 11 a.m. But within this first hour, we're going to be speaking about the National Under-20 Athletics team. The Athletics Kenya held the trials to select a team that will represent the country at the World Under-20 Championships in Cali, Colombia. Those events will be taking place from the 1st to the 6th of August and will be live on KBC Channel 1. And to give us a breakdown of the build-up to this, and you know, some of the high moments and the low moments that came, is the team manager, Joseph Ilovi. And TM, welcome to KBC Channel 1.
Thank you, Mr. Wahome.
And as we have this conversation, remember our sign language interpreter is Ann Wangeshi, and our hashtag is Sports Check KBC, and our Twitter handle is at KBC Channel 1. So first, TM, the first thing that I would like to talk about is, you know, how the trials went over the 2 days and the kind of competitiveness that you saw from the athletes who are at the Nyayo National Stadium over the weekend.
Thank you for this invite. I want to start by thanking KBC for having time for me. And as Wahome has said, my name is Joseph Ilovi. I'm the Secretary of the Youth Development Committee in Athletics Kenya. And after the championships on Saturday, I was named to be the TM to the under-20 team, which is bound to travel to Cali in Colombia. The 2 days competition was good. We had some very good competition, of course. It did not start only on the 2 days, because there before, about 2 weeks ago, we had the regional championships, and every region chose the best. In fact, we had even given them the qualifying standards, because we did not want a field where we get so many athletes coming to run. And I think the first day we didn't have so many finals, but in the second day we had all finals done. And I think looking back in 2019, the team that we chose, and it was placed number 1 in the world here in Kenya, in Nairobi, I think the competition was higher than 2019. It could be because 2019, 2021, the year preceding that is 2020, we had a lot of problem with Corona. So the athletes in 2021, we didn't have time to prepare them well. But this time around, I think Athletics Kenya, through the youth department, prepared the athletes very well, because we had a camp in April. In fact, we had 26 camps, in 25 in Kenya and 1 in France. So the preparation was well, and I think that is why we had that very stiff competition for the 2 days.
And let me start with the preparation, and let me just go back 3 months to April when a team, some athletes were selected, what you'd call the 26th camp that went to France. Tell us how that concept was conceived and how it went through and the kind of specialized training that the athletes received there.
Yes, I would start by thanking the government because they gave us funds for the under-20, and I also thank the President of Athletics Kenya because he accepted that we choose a team. It was a lean team of 11 athletes and 2 officials. And again, I want to thank the chairman, Youth Development, because this was his child. He went to Miramas one time, he mingled with the Miramas people, and kind of got friends there. So in a discussion with them, because Miramas specializes with field events and sprints, he got a chance for us to select a few athletes to travel to France. And I think this has now borne fruits. It is actually an association that is not ending today, because the Miramas people say they want to help Kenya. Initially, just before my chairman went to France, we have the sprinting hero in Kenya, that is Omanyala. Omanyala went to Miramas, they did a championship there, and the Miramas Athletics Club was very impressed by a Kenyan who would win, even with very strong contenders in the card. So that is how the Miramas team went to Miramas. And I think the specialized training there has borne fruits. Of course, we invested the money that we were given by the government. We invested a little to the 11 athletes and the 2 officials. And I would say it did not go bad, because out of the 11 athletes, the Team Kenya that we selected on Saturday, we have 5. We have 5 athletes, and I think that is a very big percentage.
So we'll be coming to the 5 athletes as we break down this, what went down on Friday and Saturday at the National Stadium, event by event. But when I love you, the first thing that I want to say was the report that came from the athletes who are there. What were the things that the coaches picked and the athletes picked up?
I would say the athletes were very happy with the training. For one, the Miramas Club, even the president of the Miramas Club is a coach. In fact, he's a coach of the sprints. And, you know, us in Kenya, we lack equipment. I say that is where we have a problem in training our sprinters, training our field events athletes. And in Miramas, there was everything. So they would mingle with all the equipment. They would have a gym. They would have the handles. They would have all the equipment which is needed. So I think if one time would grow to that status where we have equipment for all the events, like we do in the middle and long, because in the middle and long we do not have a problem with that. I think Kenya would be placed in a better position as far as sprinting and as far as field is concerned.
Well, and the other 25 camps that were put together by Athletics Kenya, what was the target for these camps? Because they had to be, we know that different coaches use different methods. How are you trying to prepare these athletes such that if they join the Team Kenya setup, the methods are not new to them?
I would say in the 25 camps that we are placed in Kenya, we have trained coaches. Every region has trained coaches. So the regions that we identified the camps, we talked to the leadership of the regions, and we told them our need. We told them what we need the camps to look like, and therefore the regions chose the right coaches, because most of our camps in Kenya were for actually middle and long. Because even when we go to the tabulation, you'll find out that a few like Dura complex had sprinters, another one like Machakos had sprinters, and that is why we have sprinters from those two regions joining the team for Kali. So the setup for the camps was given in a way that like in cost. The cost of people chose sprinters because they have had sprinters there before. So they were doing sprinting and a few of middle distance, 800. In fact, the most was 800. Then when we go to the others, we had both. We had both the sprinters and middle and long. We had others which had field events, and the programs were made by the coaches, and the youth subcommittee went round checking on what was happening. In fact, it took us about 2 weeks to complete a circuit of the 25 camps, which was tiring, but it was good because after selecting the team, our sweat has been wiped because we have got a very good team now.
There's something you mentioned, that there are particular things you required for a camp to be approved by the Athletics Kenya, Youth and Development Subcommittee.
Yes.
What is it that is required right now for any development camp by AK? If Wahome was to set up Wahome training camp,
yes,
what are the boxes I need to tick before I even have an athlete inside?
If it is an under-20 camp, you must have the documents. For instance, the team that we have selected, it is composed of those who were born 2006, those are the youngest, up to 2003. So that was the composition of the athletes in the camps. So we required that every camp must get a file and get the original documents of the athletes, photocopy them and put them in the file. So when the youth development members went around, they would just go to the file, check whether the age group or the age
bracket.
The age bracket is proper. That was one. The other one was the setup. We have an MOU with the Ministry of Education, because most of the under-20 athletes are students. Yes. Or if they are not students, they have just left maybe school 1 year. They were Memaliza Form 4. So the other setup was the camp was supposed to be in a school where we have a boarding facility, so that we can have the hostel for the girls and the hostel for the boys. That was another one. Then the other one was there must be somebody who is responsible, the leader of the camp. In fact, this time round, we said he was supposed to be the head coach. The person who is going to control the other coaches, the person who is going to control every activity in the camp. Those are some of the things that we set up as the youth development.
And now, after that, from that, the development, it is also from around the 16 or so regions that trials were held so that they could pick athletes who would come to the Nyayo National Stadium. What was the outcome of these camps if you were to reflect on the results of the regional trials?
Yeah, there are not 16 because the regions are 12.
12 and the 4 affiliates.
Yeah, because the affiliates may not have under 20s. Yes. So in the 12, it is only one region which did not participate. That is the northeastern, because of 1 or 2 things. But the other 11 regions participated very well. And in fact, the reflection of the results that we got, it is like every region is represented. All the way from Western, we have representatives in the team. We have North Rift, we have representatives. We have Central Rift, South Rift, we have Nyanza South, we have Central, we have Southern.
All right, Mwalimu, let me just interrupt you slightly, because we've got the meeting where we've got the launch, and this is for the strategic plan of land use in the country. Cabinet Secretary Eugene Wamalwa is speaking. Let us listen in to that.
Utilize these funds. This was prepared by CRA, and the chair CRA told us a very interesting thing about our counties and the life expectancy. When I saw my good friend Esther, we were together in the 10th Parliament, she said where she comes from, the average height is about 5 feet. Now, what she did say, that they might be short in that part of the country, but they live the longest. According to the CRA chair, and she also happens to come from Nyeri County, she said for those who live the longest, they happen to be women coming from Nyeri County. Then she said something very scary, that those who live the shortest happen to be men from Wahome County. So I whispered to her that I'm so glad I went to school in Wahome Bay, but I was not born there. So I hope I live a little longer. So it's so good to see you after so many years, and to be here with the commissioners and the chair, NLC, to launch these tools, because it's very, very important to see how the implementation and the oversighting is done. Because as a country, we've done very well under the leadership of President Uhuru Kenyatta, as the PS and the chair say. When you're looking at land reforms, land is a very emotive matter in our country. We have had very many problems in different parts of the country, clans fighting, people losing lives, and whenever we have elections also, we have a lot of problems over land. Since independence, I think we're only 10 million Kenyans at independence. Now, our population is growing very fast. We are over 50 million Kenyans. But Kenya remains the same, 582,647 square kilometers. Kenya is not expanding. The land remains the same. With the challenges of climate change and the fast-growing population, we have to really think about our future as a country. We have to really plan. And that is why I want to thank the chair and our team at the National Land Commission, and also the leadership of His Excellency the President, in ensuring that as a country we have in place a national land use policy. And we also have a national spatial plan. So as national government, we've done our part. Today, we are here to also ask the county governments, because this land, the 580,000 square kilometers, is divided into 47 counties. We are urging the county governments also do their part to ensure that they have spatial plans in place. It is actually a legal requirement. We would like them to do more than they've done. So far, only 6 have spatial plans, and I think it's good to appreciate which counties. We have the county of Lamu, Makueni, Kericho, Baringo, Bomet, Kilifi, and I'm told Vihiga is almost completing. My good friend, Governor Otichel, I think I'll encourage him to speed up so that we have the 7th county also having a special plan. And we want to add the remaining 40, some who haven't even started and some who are at different stages, to do their part so that we have this process completed. So let me thank you once more for giving me the opportunity to launch these tools for the oversight and implementation of the National Spatial Plan 2015 to 2045 and the National Land Use Policy, Sessional Paper number 1 of 2017. The National Land Use Policy sets out long-term goals on land use management to promote the best land use practices for optimal utilization of land resources. The policy offers a framework of recommendations and principles designed to ensure the maintenance of a land use system that will provide for land use planning, resources allocation, environmental management, equitable utilization of land resources to meet governance, socio-economic, cultural obligations of the people of Kenya, in mitigating problems associated with the poor land use, an integrated framework for preparation of a national spatial plan and review of various land use plans. Ladies and gentlemen, the National Spatial Plan, on the other hand, is one of the flagship projects identified under the Kenya Vision 2030 and provides a national spatial structure that defines how national space is utilized to ensure optimal and sustainable use of land. This is imperative as it facilitates the achievement of the land use policy principles of efficiency, equity, sustainability, and productivity. The plan anticipated to promote the attainment of national, social, economic, and environmental goals and objectives. Further, the plan provides strategies and policies to deal with national challenges, including urbanization, regional imbalances and inequalities, rural development, environmental degradation, transportation, and the underutilization of the massive resources available in our country. The implementation of the NSP will enable the country achieve global competitiveness, balanced regional development, functional human settlements, and environmental sustainability. The above two policy documents, the National Land Use Policy and the National Spatial Plan, identifies government ministries, county governments, and I'm hoping there's representation from the Council of Governors, or Asante-san, private institutions, and non-state actors as the key implementing agencies. The National Land Commission, by virtue of their mandate under Article 67(2)(h) of the Constitution, is to monitor and have oversight.
The Cabinet Secretary for Defense, the Honorable Eugene Wamalwa, and he is speaking at Upper Hill, and this is at the launch of the National Spatial Plan and the National Land Use Policy Monitoring and Oversight Tools. The National Spatial Plan provides a national spatial structure defining how land in the national territory should be utilized to achieve sustainable development. And there are factors to be considered. Think about urbanization, food security, environmental degradation, transportation, and improper use of natural resources. While the National Land Policy Use, which is Sessional Paper number 1 of 2017, it sets out the long-term goals on land use management and aspires to promote the best land use practices to make sure that the land that we have is well utilized and optimally. And he and the Cabinet Secretary also mentioned 7 counties, Vihiga, Lamu, Kericho, Bomet, Kilifi, Makueni, and Baringo, all that have got functional spatial plans for the use of land in those counties. Alan Aoko is our reporter at that function and is going to be giving us a report in our subsequent bulletins. So here we are. We continue now with our conversation about athletics, and specifically the World Under-20 Athletics Championships team that was selected and named on Saturday at the Nyayo National Stadium after 2 days of trials. We've been given the background as to the build-up to these trials, and remember that the team that goes to Cali, Colombia, they have a heavy load for them because Kenya had 17 medals and last year at the World Under-20 Championships, which Kenya hosted at the Moi International Sports Center, Kasarani, 8 gold, 2 silver, and 7 bronze. 17 medals in total. They top the table, and that is the task ahead. And we are with the team manager, Joseph Ilovi, and Mwalimu, let's come back. And, we were giving a background on, the regions and the teams that they selected. You could tell us the outcomes of the camps. Now, going back to how the teams, the 12 regions, selected their teams, I think with the exception of Northeastern, like you have mentioned.
Yes.
And the kind of athletes who were in Nairobi on Friday and Saturday.
I think after the selection in the regional level, we had top-class athletes because the performance of the athletes is it clearly showed that we had top-class athletes. There before I had said because of the corona in 2020-2019, And then 2021, we didn't interact very much with athletes. In fact, as coaches, we are only coaching them through either WhatsApp, etc., etc. We were giving them training materials or training activities to do. But this time around, when Corona kind of lapsed, I think there was a lot of one-on-one training with athletes. And that is why we are saying that the athletes who came to Nairobi were top-class athletes. When you check in the results, you find out that so many qualified, apart from maybe the sprinting, yes, but in the middle and long, we had so many athletes who would have represented us in the World Championships. Only that, World Under 20, we are given 2 slots. That is, only 2 athletes will travel to Cali. So it means the rest now will have to wait. If they are going to be under 20, maybe next time they will still run. If they are going to be transiting to the senior, then we shall monitor them, because the youth department has already committed itself that when we place the athletes in the juniors and they transit to the senior level, we shall be following their workouts, so that we don't have that kind of a scenario where we have a gold medalist, for example, and when he or she goes to the senior level, hapatikani tena. So that is our duty. We have already committed ourselves that we shall follow Wanyonyi, for example. He is still a junior,
yes,
and he qualified to go to represent Kenya in the Oregon Championships, and he will still go and represent Kenya in the Commonwealth. So as he transits, because next year now, if we had under 20, Wanyonyi would not have run, but he will be a senior. So we are saying that our athletes and the under 20 athletes, we are monitoring them even when they go to the senior level, so that we don't have that scenario of asking one another, where did these athletes go? So that is what we have committed ourselves to do in the youth department.
Actually, before we get into the details proper, I know Sebastian Coe, the World Athletics president, had mentioned about, what you've spoken about, that one of the biggest challenges they have the world over is the transition from age grade,
yes,
competitions to senior level. But how have these camps helped AK now have a database that can be used, say, for the next 2 or 3 years, or even look, if you were to use an Olympic cycle, Paris 2024, the database you have?
I would say, I mentioned somewhere that all the camps and a file.
Had a file, yes.
That file now gives us the database. In fact, all the camps would bring all the files that they used to Nairobi. The camps, the file will tell us, this athlete, this phone number was based in Dura, for example, Dura Sports Club. So at the end of the day, when we have done everything, and maybe that athlete is already a senior, we shall be able to follow him or her. So that is what we have done. And again, the youth department, because of the amount of money that we used in the camps, it is like we are saying, we have honed the camps now. So whatever is happening in the camps will also be monitored, whether we have a championship to come or we shall not have a championship to come. So we did not end just in April. It means after this now, after Cali, it will be off-season. So we shall be able to communicate to Kamoi, which is in North Rift. What is happening there? Our athletes still training. What is the training program? And if need be, we shall send our representatives to go and check, even when we do not have a championship going on.
All right,
that is the commitment.
Okay, let's get to the championship proper, and we will go through some of the athletes. This was a bittersweet moment let me start with a bittersweet moment for you.
Yes.
Joseph Lepatey, in the 200 meters, he clocked 21.42 seconds. The entry standards for Cali, Colombia was 21.4.
Yes. I would say it is bitter, yes, because it happens that Joseph Lepatey is my athlete, and I had prepared him well. Unfortunately, let me say that, unfortunately, he ran 100 meters in the first day. He clocked 10:95. But when we sat down after the 200 meters, we sat down with him. I told him, no, I think your best event would have been this one. And now that we have made that mistake, we shall not make it tomorrow. That is why he did not run the finals in 100 meters and he went for the 200 meters. Again, he got kind of a small injury when he was doing 200 meters because he limped a bit. After the start, he limped a bit, and after 50 meters, that is when he gained. That is in the semis. So I also talked to a physio immediately, and he was treated. And in the finals, he clocked 21.42. Unfortunately, he would not qualify to go to Cali, and that is the bitter part of it, because World Athletics would not allow us to place him in the team because he had not qualified. So I think we have next time. We shall still continue. I will still continue preparing the boy, and I want to believe he is going to transit to the senior very soon, and he'll be one of the boys to check. So the seniors should have their senses ready, because he is coming.
Well, Hesbon Ochieng, you have been warned. Mike Mokamba, you have been warned. Lepate is lined up. The women's 400 meters. And two athletes going, Damaris Nduleve from Southern and Sylvia Chelagat from Central Rift.
Yes, they are chosen. They are in the team.
Yeah.
Damaris Nduleve is a new sensation. Of course, even last year she didn't run. Sylvia is a bronze medalist for last year's World Under-20 in Nairobi. So, and in fact they did very well, because when we chose Sylvia last year, she had not even qualified. But because we were hosting, we were given a chance. We were given a chance of selecting at least one athlete in the non-qualifying events. But later on, when we went for the camp, like we are going for the camp starting Thursday this week, the girl was prepared very well. She qualified even before we did the championships, and that is how she got a bronze medal last year. So I would say the two girls ran 23, which is okay.
53.71, yes.
Yes.
53.96 for Sylvia,
yes.
and 53.71
yes.
for Damaris.
And that is very good, because the qualification is 55.2. So I want to believe, because we have good coaches in sprinting who are going to be manning those girls and some boys, I would believe they are going to do very well in the World Championships.
And let's take a look now at the men's, and this is where, I mean, as a selector, I wouldn't mind this headache. 3 athletes, 47.6. The entry standard, but you have Elkanah Chemilil from Nyanza South, 46.21. Let me just put it into the Kenyan context. At 46.21, he would be competing for a podium place at the Seniors National Championships. That's the 400-meter standard in Kenya. And Samuel Toili, 47.23, and Sebastian Sinoti also 47.53, but only 2 are to be picked. The outlook for the 400 meters.
I would say one of our products in Miramas now coming in, that is Elkanah Chemelili. We sponsored him with the other 11, and he went to Miramas. And even when he talked to the reporters, to the media personnel in Nyayo, he attributed his good running to Miramas. I would say last year, Elkanah was also in Team Kenya for the World Under-20. He didn't go up to the final level, but this time round, he is ready to conquer the world. Then there is Toili. Toili is from Dura camp in North Rift. He is also good. I followed these athletes in all the weekend meets. In fact, I think I went to almost all of them, apart from the Kisumu one. I went to all the others. My duty with the head coach who was selected was to check on the under-20 athletes who were taking part in the weekend meets in Kenya. So we saw these boys, and they were running very well. They were beating the seniors, just as you have said. So I would say again, it is a warning that sprinting, and when we continue going to Miramas and coming back, sprinting is coming to Kenya.
Well, a second warning has been fired to those who have been warned: Boniface Mweresa, Colin Somae, and hopefully, yes, there's also William Ryan. You've been warned. The juniors are coming. Now, let's take a look at the other event where we had two qualifiers, and the 400-meter hurdles. 53.2 seconds was the entry standard that was set by World Athletics. And we had Peter Kithome, 52.69 from Southern, and Richard Nzioka from Nairobi, 52.95. And this is what stands out about these two athletes. They were almost, they were 2.5 seconds clear of the rest of the fields. What's the story of these two?
I would say again, Peter Kithome is a product of Miramas again.
Yes.
Yes. And even last year, he was in Team Kenya. He represented us very well. He went up to the finals. He was, I think he was position 6. And there we are. In fact, that time which he ran is not his. He has run 50. So, given a good competition,
oh yes, we saw him at the nationals,
yes,
and also at the trials for the Worlds.
Yes. So I would say Peter Kithome is also coming in very well, and I think this time round we had the first mentor in a world championship, either junior or youth, was 1999 when. When Vincent Mumo in Poland, Bydgoszcz, was able to secure position 3 in the world. I think that was the first time when we had a mentor in the under 20. Later on, we have had others coming in. So I'm saying Peter Kithome is going to be formidable. We are going to rally behind him, because I know he's going to do well. Unfortunately, because of the selection criteria, we did not choose the second boy,
which is Nzioka.
Which is Nzioka. But we chose Aloysius Chemgetich, who resides in America.
Okay, we'll be talking about Aloysius Kipngetich also. So we've been told about those two. We'll be moving to the women's 800 meters next. But right now, the National Prayer Movement is having a press briefing at the Serena Hotel in Nairobi. Let us listen in.
Apostle Kimani.
Thank you, Bishop Ileli. God bless you so much. My name is Apostle John Kimani William, and we are here as church leaders, and we believe that leadership is about taking responsibility, and so we are here to take our responsibility as church leaders. And that responsibility is to pray for the nation. And so we have been doing that. Some of you, maybe you have seen the National Peace Prayer Caravan and many other events that have been going on. We have just finished a meeting last week, but one in Nakuru. But now I would like to organize a climax meeting. We know Kenya has been praying, but now I would like to come together for 3 days of prayer and fasting. And we are encouraging all Kenyans to pray from wherever they are. But those who are able to attend the meeting or the event will be in Kasarani for 3 days. That is on 28th and 29th and 30th of July. That is on a Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And then on Sunday, 31st of July, we'll have the climax of the meeting that will begin at 2 p.m. All the other days will begin from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., the 3 days. But on Sunday, we are going to do it from 2 p.m. That is on 31st July. We are also organizing another prayer meeting in Eldoret on 13th, 14th, and 15th of July. But this meeting is just a regional meeting. But the one in Kasarani is going to be a national meeting. So we are calling upon all Kenyans as we head towards the August elections that we join our hands together and believe God. I know all of us, we have different desires of who would like to become the president or other levels of leadership. But one thing we are saying as a prayer forum is that we are praying for the will of God to be done in this nation as it is in heaven. Because the will of God is the best for all of us. And because Kenya is a praying nation, And we have seen in the past, especially 2 elections, what God have done. He has really delivered us from bloodshed. We are also trusting God that there is going to be peace before the elections, during the elections, and after the elections. And the leaders that are going to be elected on 9th of August, we are going to receive them with thanksgiving, and we are going to have a national Thanksgiving Day, and we tell God we receive the leaders with thanksgiving, and as a church, we'll continue to pray for them faithfully. Sisi ni viongozi wa makanisa.
That is happening at the Nairobi Serena Hotel, where the National Prayer Movement are having a press briefing, and the conversation that they are bringing forward is that there are prayer caravans around the country, and also we have got 3 days of prayer that will be taking place, the 28th, 29th of 30, and the 30th of July. And then on the 31st of July from 2 p.m., they're going to have 1 full day of prayer. And this is for the nation ahead of the national general elections that take place on the 9th of August 2022. We shall be giving you that as part of our news broadcast today. We get back to our conversation, and this is about the World Under-20 Athletics Championships. Team Kenya selected named on Saturday. The selection started on Friday. There were 3 finals, and the rest of the finals, about 17 of them, they were held on Saturday at the New National Stadium. And we are with Joseph Bilovi, the team manager, and he's also the secretary of the Athletics Kenya Youth and Development Committee. And TM, you know, we were coming to the 800 meters. Brenda Chebet was one of those athletes who was in her heat. She did run, but when it came to the final, 3 athletes: Nelly Jepchirchir, Evelyn Jepkoech, and Judith Kemunto. Quite a tough one, considering the pedigree that Brenda would bring in the women's 800 meters. But Nelly and Evelyn picked eventually.
Yeah, I would say we usually are given criteria.
Yes.
The selection criteria. In fact, the selection criteria was that number 1, the position 1 in the final was automatically selected. Then the second athlete would be selected by the selection panel. So when we didn't choose maybe number 2, it was because of a reason which was given by the selection committee. But I think the athletes in 800 meters again, they are good. Running 2:06 is good enough for under 20. And of course, when it comes to the preparation, the 3 weeks that we are going to be preparing them, we could be putting that 2:06 to 2:00. So again, I think we have a good team in 800 meters.
The men's 800 meters, and this was in the final. Brian Kiptum is the one who was selected, but World Indo silver medalist Noah Kibet is in the team. What was the criteria for picking him? Because Kiptum has a good time. 1:45.73 in Nairobi by any standard is good.
Yeah, I think again the reason for choosing that boy, that is Noah Kibet, is the fact that he has run very well in the Diamond League, and he had run for in the finals of the selection of the Oregon team and the Commonwealth team. So as coaches and as technical officials, we found it rough to tell him to run again just after a week after having that kind of competition. So when the selection committee sat down, they placed him instead of the number 2, because when you go to the Diamond League timings, he is far much better even than the position 1. That is how Noah Kibet was given a wild card to 800.
Another wild card coming through in the name of Reynold Kipkorir. This is an athlete who's gone through, and on Saturday night he won an event at something known as the KBC Night of Athletics. Not to be confused with this KBC. That's a Dutch financial services firm that's in charge of that event at Huizenzollder. Reynold Kipkorir clocked 3:34 in the 1,500 meters, winning that as... Anyway, it was a good event overall for Kenyans. Zakayo winning the 5K, product of the under-18 and under-20 system.
Yes.
But what are the prospects here when you put him together with Daniel Kimayo?
Again, the selection criteria where we knew Reynald. He is a product of Miramas. We sent him to Miramas again, and we had also monitored him in other events outside Kenya here. His time is also very good. 3:34 places him maybe the best in the world this year for under 20. I want to believe so.
Oh, well, great names coming through. For the women, we've got Purity Chepkirui and Brenda Chebet. And knowing that Brenda can do the 8 and the 15, what was the choice, to place her in the 15?
Brenda did 15 this time around. Let me start there. She didn't do the 800, but she did the 15, which is okay. She also did 15 while in the Mauritius Africa Senior Championships, where she was placed number 3. Purity was a silver medalist in Mauritius. And again, Purity is the gold medalist in Kenya last year. So I think, and those girls ran together even last year. They were in the same team. They were in 1500 meters. And I think as far as 1500 meters is concerned in the girls, I would say if we lose in Colombia, it will be by fate.
You do not want to come back here.
It will be by fate. We shall be. In fact, I would say even people will cry because the gold medal shouldn't come to Kenya, definitely. Yes.
All right, let's move on now to the 3,000 meter steeplechase. Emmanuel Wafula and Peter Rono.
New findings. Of course, Kenya is a crop of talent. So we have new findings. They did well, just like last year when we had Amos, the boy who is now in
Amos Serem.
Amos Serem. He was also new, and he did very well. He got a gold medal. Right now, he won the Oregon bond. He is going to Oregon. He is going to Commonwealth. That is what we are saying. That Kenya is actually a country of talent. So those are new talents, and I want to believe again they are going to do well when we go to Colombia.
Then there was this massive performance by Faith Cherotich, 9 minutes 18.25. Having been at the national championships, she would fit into the senior team going just by this time alone.
Yes, I would say Faith was even supposed to go to Mauritius, but somehow we thought she's younger, and we did not want to put her into pressure. She has a better time than that. In fact, our real time is 9:12, which is even better than any other woman in Kenya. I would say she is in a class of her own. She is the bronze medalist last year, and in the interview, she said she would not go for anything else apart from the God. And I pray that she gets that God, so that she redeems the glory which is going down in steeplechase, men and women.
Well, actually, and speaking about the steeplechase, because let me just hold on to that event. We know that the men's team was put into camp. The men were put into camp for specialized training, and we could see the improvement coming through from, Concesla, Serem, Kibi Watt, Keegan, and this was at the national championships. What's the strategy for the under-20s?
I would say one thing about steeplechase, and now that we have been beaten maybe severally, I would say we need those athletes to be trained well. We need them to be mentally taken care of, because steeplechase is about mental training for at this moment, because you saw when we had the Continental Tour, we were beaten at our ground by people from outside, and nobody would have thought that Kenya would lose steeplechase at home. So it's like the athletes have now been thinking, what do we do? So I think when Athletics Kenya put them into a camp, it was for both mental training, so that they focus, so that they know we can go back there. And I thank God that Concesas Kipruto is coming back. He had a bad year last year, maybe an injury or something like that. But this time round, I saw the Kipruto that I was seeing some years back, which means when they went into that camp, there is something which went into their body, went into their mind, and now it is like they are set. Let us go back to our glory.
Well, and also remember, we also have got the 3,000 meters for men. Let me just take a look at the women's 3,000 meters flat. Betty Chelagat and Nancy Cherop.
Yes,
their quality.
I would say again they are quality athletes, and again they are new findings because of the camps. Of course, I thank God that we had camps and would come up with a crop with some good athletes who are doing very well. And I think again the 3 weeks that we are going to be together, they are going to be mentored into medalists in the Cali event.
Michael Temoy and Edwin Kimosong from the men's team in the 3K flat.
Yes, again, those are new findings. Last year we had others, and we even had some athletes who were in Team Kenya last year. But this time around, they were beaten. They were beaten at home. I think, as I said, Kenya is a place where you can get talent any moment. You just need to train. You just need to train well. You just need to follow the training programs of a coach, and there you are. You find yourself winning. So, a new talent again coming up.
Well, one of the names he's speaking about is Ismail Kirui, who's been competing with the seniors, and he has a very big, he's got a namesake who's performed very, at the highest level and take up the middle and long. The 5,000 meters, this is the last of the track events. Samuel Kibathi and Shadrach Rono are the ones who are picked from these championships. Explosive, and let me just mention to you the times that were clocked by these two athletes. 13 minutes, 47.86, and he was just about a second clear of Shadrach Rono.
Yes, again, we have new crop. The 5,000 meters last year was won by Benson Kiplagat, and he was here, but he could not actually beat those two boys. Kibathi is a student in Japan. And again, I think his training program is so well. Even when you go back to the cross-country running in February this year, you are going to find Kibathi right there, running very well. And the other boy also did very well in cross-country. Okay. Sometimes coaches would use the cross-country as a build-up to the track. So I think those boys, after running the cross-country very well, you see now they have branded very well in the track. So I think again they are going to make sure that we defend that title because it was won here at our home by Benson Kiplagat. So they have a duty, and we are going to tell them that when we go to the camp.
Well, Benson Kiplagat also dominating the National Cross Country Championships, but there was I think the sweetest story from this trials that you held was from Winnie Chepngetich in the long jump. The entry standard for the long jump for Cali 2022 is 6.12 meters. We had 6.2 meters with legitimate win coming in from Winnie Chepngetich, another product of Miramas.
Yes, that is another product of Miramas, and I thank God that after Miramas, she never sat down. In fact, she even asked for help. She moved from Kericho to Nairobi, where she had some good training because of the facilities here. And I think that has placed her in the world rankings. So again, a Miramas product. And I thank God that our chairman, Baranaba Koril, had that dialogue with the Miramas people, and we put athletes there. I would say, if maybe she had not gone to Miramas for that specialized training, she wouldn't have done very well. I would also say that Winnie Chepngetich was not known for long jump. She was known for triple jump. But when she went to Miramas, after the trainings there, she changed. She didn't want. Even in the interview, she said, no, long jump was not mine. I did not want it. But when she went to Miramas, after training, and after having been talked to by the coaches in Miramas, she went into long jump, which now has given her a chance to go to the World Championships. So I would say the first junior to represent Kenya in a world event. So I thank God because of her.
The race walkers, Margaret Gatti and Harrison Wanyonyi, as we close.
Yes, Ariston Wanyonyi is a gold medalist.
Defending his title and finished fourth at the World Race Walking Championships.
Yes. And Gatti was also in the team last year. I think she was placed number 5 in the finals. I think this time round, Gatti, for example, Gatti did very well because she qualified automatically. Last year she qualified just because we were hosting. But this time round she qualified. 49, the qualifying standard was 50.5 something, 50.4. That is the qualifying standard, and she did 49. I think again she has come up now. She has known what she is supposed to do, and I think the coach who is handling her did a lot of work. Wanyonyi is also well. He's doing very well, and I think again his Mendo training will place him in the Mendos when we go to Cali, and more specifically the God, because it is the one that was a surprise Mendo in Kenya last year.
Well, this year, if he does win that, it's going to be a surprise. But Cali, Colombia is coming. Thank you very much. Team manager Joseph Ilovi is the team manager of the World Under-20 Athletics Championships team. They are going to Cali, Colombia. They will be in camp from the 7th of July, and that is Thursday. And they depart on the 28th of July for Cali, Colombia. And remember, the 1st to the 6th of August is when we have got the World Under-20 Athletics Championships. And that event is going to be broadcast live on KBC Channel 1. We'll take a short break, and when we come back, we continue with the conversation about speed. But now, it's about your ordinary race car on steroids and racing on airfields. We're talking about a Sunset Corsa. That's coming up next.
Top sports attractions on KBC Channel 1. In July, Kenya Morans face off against the DRC, Egypt and Senegal in the FIBA Basketball World Cup African qualifiers in Alexandria, Egypt from 1st to 3rd of July 2022. Also in July, Kenya plays South Africa in Rugby League test matches in Nairobi with a return fixture set for October. Still in July, watch the World Athletic Championships from 15th to 24th July live from Oregon, USA as Kenyan athletes seek glory. Followed by the 22nd Commonwealth Games from 28th July to 8th August live from Birmingham, England. In August, join our coverage of the World Athletics Under-20 Championships from the 1st to 6th of August 2022 from Cali, Colombia. Then in November, catch the World Half Marathon Championships on 13th November from Yangzhou, China. Now that's what sets us apart as KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
If I let it go, I could lose everything I have.
You have me.
I'm afraid I don't understand. Do you?
No.
Let me put it in this way. Over tens of thousands of years, numerous girls have had the same idea. None succeeded.
Whatever I have to do doesn't involve you.
It's been so long. Have you forgotten what we went through at Skywall?
Enough.
Things won't be done my way and how I want it.
I really hate being his son.
There will be obstacles between you.
What kind of obstacles?
It's something that could come between you and force you to take different paths.
Oh, Mother.
The reason I came to Puerto Esperanza wasn't to see Beto. It was to see you.
Leave me alone, Rutilio. Just leave me alone.
Stop repeating the same thing over and over. I know that Paulina was on the list you gave me, but I decided to take her off.
Why? How dare you take my witness off the list?
I told you I didn't like her, but you didn't care.
If I let it go, I could lose everything I have.
You have me.
I'm afraid I don't understand. Do you?
No.
Let me put it in this way. Over tens of thousands of years, numerous girls have had the same idea. None succeeded.
Whatever I have to do doesn't involve you.
It's been so long. Have you forgotten what we went through at Skywall?
Enough.
Reggae nice and it make ya. No matter what you know, can know when no safer. So me have you hold me head high. Rise me people to the skies. Hey, Mr. DJ, play that one again. Well, this a reggae music where the people them depend on. From now till the morning, vibes and over end. When you say I'm for you.
Now grown a tree.
Champion, me a the champion. Champion, me a the champion. Bounce, hop, skip your enemy there. Swing your one from left to right, me know the saga mad then.
And welcome back to Sports Check on this Monday morning, on the 4th of July 2022. If you're an American citizen, happy Independence Day to you. But now, for the rest of us who are here in Kenya, it's time for us to basically take a look at what to expect in our news coverage today. We definitely know that the Agano Party, they will be launching their manifesto today, and that is going to be done by More Waihiga, who is the presidential candidate for the Agano Party. And already we have had one other event that has taken place, and this is the launch of the National Special and Land Use Tools. So that has been done by the Cabinet Secretary for Defense, Eugene Wamalwa. And taking a look at where the campaigns are, Right Honorable Raila Odinga is on the campaign trail in Nairobi. His running mate, Martha Karua, is going to be in Narok. And we also have got a court team that are out there. We've got elections, and Edward Mondi will be taking a look at that, and Safina Cheng is going to be unpacking the manifesto. And an event, just to alert you about, that we shall be taking a look at is that His Excellency, the President, Uhuru Kenyatta, is going to be at the Kenyatta International Convention Center, and this is for the inauguration of the Nairobi International Financial Center Authority. That event is supposed to start shortly, and as the conversation goes, we shall be joining our team that is at the KICC as the President inaugurates the Nairobi International Financial Center Authority. So amongst those who are going to be there is a Regional Commissioner, Kangede Duku, and also the Chairman of the Board, Mr. Vincent Ragwe, who is going to be making their remarks. That is our news outlook. So we move on to our second conversation today. And again, we're talking about speed today. Think of a car that's been given a very heavy boost. Think of super bikes. The quite fast and loud, and how they do this. Well, there's going to be a second event of the year, the Sunset Corsa, and this is organized by Motorsport Kenya Daimler, and we've got Byron Omondi with us. Byron, good morning.
Good morning, and thank you very much for having me here today.
Yes, and Byron, before I get back to you, bottom right of your screen is our sign language interpreter and Wangeshi. So Byron, the whole concept of having drag racing in Kenya, what were the origins? Because we already know we've got, time trial is known, but what about this format?
I think it's something that has been long coming, because when you look back to the past, the way people used to do things back in the old days was actually different, because I think from a time when I was young, the whole idea about racing, when it came to my head, was about the safari rally and that kind of thing. But when we actually started moving forward, you get new kinds of cars that are coming into the market. You get cars that are not built for that kind of off-road racing. So this was something that was actually in the make, and it's actually here with us. It's actually happening, and the Sunset Coaster is one of the platforms where such things are going to be happening this weekend.
Well, we all know about the rally cars, and Kenya has a history. Actually, there were racing tracks. When you hear Gari La Langa, actually there's a place in Nakuru known as Langa because of the racing track that was there, and one in Nairobi that is now the internal container depot. But for these cars that you use for drag racing, what is the specification and the work that goes into putting it out there?
I think to consider getting your car into such an event, you have to obviously invest a lot of money into the car. It goes in different aspects, because you need to have upgrades on your engine, you need to have upgrades on your gearbox, and it goes to the tiniest bits of it, actually all the way up to the wheels that you're using for racing. Because if you buy a car, let's say like a Volkswagen GTI from let's say 2014, you're going to get about 220 horsepower. That is just about enough power to put you on a road and to actually give you a good sense of performance. But if you're going to go into such events and you intend on coming out victorious, you need to do a lot of tunings, which start from the basics, like the software that your engine is running. That is actually the stage 1 tune, and then you go all the way up to even the way that your gearbox, because if you're having around 350 or 400 horsepower, you need your gearbox to be able to actually match the eagerness of the engine that you're running. So there is actually a lot of work that goes on into such vehicles, and garages have actually come up over the years, and they're actually doing this for most of the drivers who will be participating in events like these ones.
And when you take a look, the work that you do when you talk about the software that runs the engine, the ECU, what is it that you change such that when you take a look at what's under the bonnet, then you have got improved performance? What are the changes made?
Actually, I think the guys at the garages are actually the experts on that one. But from what I've seen them do, a guy comes with a laptop, connects it to your ECU, types a few things, and after that, now he tells you now you're at 250 horsepower from your 210 or your 220. And that is actually what happens with the first stage of tuning. You don't have to change like a lot of things going into it.
So you don't need to boost, you don't need to supercharge or have turbo at that point?
Actually, most of the cars that go into that kind of stuff actually go in there with the already turbo setups from manufacturers, like let's say the GTIs. They go into the stage 1 tunes with those things already set up, the superchargers and the turbos. But if you have a car that can actually take something different, that is actually something that they can also do, because we have seen some naturally aspirated Subarus that have actually gotten a supercharger upgrade from these guys actually. Yeah.
Well, when it comes now to the gearbox, we know for most of these racers, they prefer the stick shift for some, and there are those that come, with the auto gear, with the automatic gearbox systems. What's the balance between the two?
Actually, the thing happens, there was a time when the stick shifts were actually the thing in the market, and they still are, because for guys who've been driving cars like the older Subarus, they were not provided with manual transmissions. They were not provided with automatic transmissions. But coming into what you have at the moment, you're looking at cars like the Volkswagen Golf GTIs. For cars like those ones, it's actually very rare to get a manual spec for them.
Yes.
And then again, there was the way that the gearbox units in these cars have been set up is actually more intelligent, because you're getting a car that has a dual clutches, what is usually called the DCT. So for a car like that one, you have it's like two gearbox units have been combined. So you have one that engages the odd numbered gears, another one engages the even numbered gears. So when you're in gear 1, the other one is already thinking of throwing in gear 2. So if you have a car like that one, I think it's more convenient when it comes to giving you less stress on the track, because the moment you put your foot down, the gearbox knows what to do from the moment you take off.
Very clever for that. And for you to do that, you need the right kind of wheels. There are those who use the fiber-belted radials. There are those who use the steel-belted radials. What kind of wheels do you use for the cars here?
I think for most of the time it goes down to what you're looking to get, and actually also determined by the condition of the track that you're going to be racing on. Because for me, I think if I'm to go to the brands, most of the time people tend to use, I think you have Michelins that come in, but I think...
Actually, I'm talking about the surface of the wheel that you want, not even about the brand.
Yeah.
What do you go for? Are you going for one where the grooves go round, or are you looking for something that... Or are you looking for what you'd call the slicks, those that look almost smooth?
Yeah, I think I would go for the one the ones that go around, because the idea is to get to the finish line as fast as possible, and actually the way that they distribute traction is actually very important. So I think if you have grooves that are sort of have those rather, let's say, weird shapes, I think it takes a toll on the performance of the vehicle and the way that it is going to drive to the other end.
So which means that the grooves basically have to be a complete circle around the tire.
If you can get those ones, you have an advantage over your opponent already.
Yeah. Now, the other thing that comes in here, and people always ask, is the safety. Because you're driving, this is a car that has been given a lot of boost, you're driving fast. What's the safety regulation for the cars?
I think it all starts with the driver, because if you're coming in as a driver, you need to have a protective gear, you need to have your helmet in place, you need to, the car has to be verified by the guys at the track. They have to make sure that there is a certain level that your car can actually go to, because and they actually have to make sure that you can handle that amount of power as the driver, because you cannot come from a vehicle that does about 100 HP and you get thrown to a car that does about 1500 HP for the first time. You have to, most of the guys,
that is me.
Actually, most of the guys who come to the events are guys who have been doing this for some time. A guy who bought a car at 100 HP, he has tuned it all the way to, let's say, 500 or 600. They've been driving it for some time, and that is actually very important, because you don't want a guy who will take off and then get thrown out of the track by the car. Yeah, that is something that actually gets looked into. You need to have the basics like your fire extinguisher close, which as much as you have them, there is also the other bit of safety where you have fire engines from either the county governments, which is what happened when we went to Nyahururu last time. There was a standby fire engine on site, and there were also ambulances on site. Yeah, that is something that is actually very important for an event like that one.
You've mentioned about the helmet, but I want to ask about roll cage. I know most people would like their cars light eventually, so that for optimal performance. But what safety things do you require from a driver? Do you require them to have a fire suit, or is just the helmet?
I think for most of the time it is the helmet, but if they can have a fire suit, that would be much convenient. But for most of the time it's always that kind of stuff for the helmet. That is the most important.
Basic roll cages, probably?
No, not really, because you know, for an event like Sunset Corsa, it's actually an event that is open to all kinds of vehicles. When we went to Nairobi last time, there was a guy in a diesel Mazda Demio who was actually on track. There was a guy with a BMW X3, and those are actually family cars. So I think the guy who was racing with the BMW X3 actually brought it out with that child seat. That child seat thing was actually on when he was racing. So most of the time we have guys who are actually coming in with their family cars, and for them, for you to let them in, a guy is coming to race on Sunday, he has to be at work on Monday. Yeah, I think we always admit them in the way they are.
All right. If I was a marshal at that event and I see something with baby on board, I don't think I would allow that person to drive for any reason. But Byron, now let's come to the other side of this competition, and we're talking about bikes, motorcycles, super bikes. How do you incorporate them into the competition before we get into the nitty-gritties of how entries are run and how the competition runs?
No, for the biking side of it, there has always been this kind of hot air between the biking groups in Kenya, and there is a guy who owns a Nissan GTR, which has been tuned to about 1,500 horsepower.
Okay, so that's a generator.
Yeah, that's actually a very powerful car. So for most of the time, there has been this debate on whether that car can, okay, it's always said that that is the fastest car in the region. So the argument has always been from the bikers. They always say that they will find a way of actually beating him and becoming the fastest groups in Africa. So it has been happening for some time, and when we went to Nyahururu, there was a BMW bike, I think it was the S1000RR, actually went against him for the first time. And then there was a Kawasaki H2, which according to some of the rumors that we might be getting is that it's going to get tuned. So you know, the thing about biking is that all the power actually goes to one wheel, which is the rear wheel. So you have to be on top of your game to control that. So for most of these guys, they're actually going to be looking at beating that GTR. Yeah.
What happened in Nyahururu? Who won, the bike or the car?
No, I think
the biker or the driver.
I think it was very controversial because some guys were not ready to accept the results. But for the first round that went against the BMW S1000, that bike actually won the race against the GTR. But when it was done with the Kawasaki H2, yeah, the GTR won the race again. So guys came out with rather controversial remarks about the entire thing.
Well, look, it's just a race. What was controversial, I mean, about one bike? I mean, it's all about the driver. I mean, it comes down at times to the driver or the person riding.
Yeah. You know, the thing that happens is that with most of these guys, you're always going to get an excuse. Someone is going to say, he didn't launch correctly. I didn't launch correctly. Someone is going to say, the traction was off for me. The traction was this for me. So as much as it's always thrilling to do that, when a guy loses, there is always going to be a story behind it. Yeah.
All right, now let's come to this and drag racing. This is serious speed events, and they do it at airports or airstrips. And Byron, let me come to this. How do you work with the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority and the Kenya Airport Authority to get access to these facilities?
I think this is like the third time the event is going to be happening. Over time, we have developed contacts, and we have to appreciate some of our friends who are also our sponsors, our Flightster Academy. They've always had this upper hand in assisting us in getting access to these facilities. And then we have also received much support from the Civil Aviation Authority, because for you to have such an event, you have to alert them on time, and they actually have to approve it. So the guys have been very supportive, and I actually appreciate them about that.
The Kenya Airports Authority, so that you get the land there, yes, the Civil Aviation Body, so that they don't use the airport.
Yeah, and they have come through for us in the two times that the event has been held, and definitely this time as well.
Okay. Yeah. Now, how do you set up the track for this drag racing?
You have the most important thing is that you have to make sure that there are no loose chippings on the track, because they can actually be dangerous. Someone can veer off the track, or they can also the things can actually shatter your windscreen when you're driving. So the first thing that has to be done is that you have to make sure that the surface is actually decent enough, so that when you're driving, there is nothing that is going to cause harm to your windscreen or to your paintwork, because they're actually bad. Because you know, when you're driving and they're hitting your paintwork, it's actually a painful sound to bear. Yeah, so that is actually the first thing that must be done, and it has to be cleaned. And you have to make sure that you don't have loose chippings on the track before the marking is even done.
Okay, yeah. So you clear all the loose chippings, then next setting up the track and the distance to be used.
Yeah, that is actually done by, we have, the event is held by different guys. We have guys who have specialized in that, which is the form of the motoring press agency, like the guys under JM Baraza. They've been doing that for some time locally, and I think they also have international experience. So they always advise us on what to do and when to do, and how to set up the track, even for the time trial races.
Okay,
yeah.
So let's now get down to this. For you having been one, as we take a look at this drag racing, yeah. When you pick, say, Nyahururu, and you've got to set up this track, about what's the average length that you would have for this, to see who, as the drivers, go head to head on this?
I think the average length, for last time was about, it was almost a kilometer. I'm not exactly sure on that, but it was around there, because, for the moment a guy drives all the way down there, when he overdoes it and reaches a certain level, he actually has this risk of maybe blowing up the engine. So you have to put that into consideration, that when you're pushing your car at such higher revs, there is a certain distance you can get to which is actually healthy for the car, so that once you get there, your car can now start cooling down, and maybe you also need room to actually stop on the other end, so that you can, so that you can actually come back to the lane again. Yeah.
So when you're having that, what's been the experiences from the very first event that you held, and you get onto the track, and different people come and compete?
I think the experience has been wonderful so far, because for Sunset Corsa it actually began last year around September. So you actually wake up and you tell guys, now you're having a racing event for the first time. You have those seasoned drivers who look at it and think, no, these guys, you always get those kinds of guys. But after time, I think going into the second one and the third one, the reception has been actually very positive from the drivers, and we have actually received a positive response from the spectators as well, because I think for the number that came to Nyahururu, that number was actually very crazy. It was a big number. So I think we are actually looking at way bigger things for Sunset Corsa as we go forward. Sunset Corsa, it's something someone's got to think, because when you hear about Corsa and Sunset, what's the connection between those two? I think for Corsa is one of the driving modes in a Lamborghini. There is this Lamborghini Urus thing, which was one of the fastest SUVs in the world. There was actually one driving mode which was Corsa. I cannot confirm which mode it was for, but I think it was based on track performance, if I'm not wrong. So actually that is where Corsa is the biggest bit of it. And if you say Corsa and you have guys who know things about Lamborghini, the first thing I want to think about has to be the performance on a track. Yeah. So here it is. Take us back to September last year. Trying to get the registrations, what the outcome was, and what were the lessons learned, especially when it comes to planning of this event? I think what happened last time is that we got to learn a lot as far as driver registration goes, because the event was, we announced the event when it was about 3 months to the time. And it was actually in June. Yes, it was actually happening for the first time. So like I said earlier on, the reception from you had the other seasoned drivers who were thinking these guys are doing this for the first time and that kind of stuff. But I think we are on the right track from now going on. There is nothing to be scared about for the spectators, for the drivers. Yeah, everybody who will be there, we are expecting everyone to have a great time. What were the entries then, last year? I think we had about 12 and about 13 racing cars. Which the event was actually supposed to happen for 2 days, but like I'd said, because for the first time, it actually went down for a single day. Yeah, it was actually packed with fun. Yeah, but we actually took some lessons from there. We learned and we decided that going forward, we're going to give a new approach to getting drivers, and we're going to give a new approach to announcing the happenings before we actually get there. And we did that for the second time when it went down, and it was actually decent. Well, Nyahururu, this is at altitude, and some of the pictures we're seeing are from that Nyahururu event. How different was the Masinga and the Nyahururu track, just by the moment you get to it and you do a recce of it? No, I think altitude is always going to be a factor for these high performance cars, because when you drive them, the quality of air you get there is not the same as what you get in an area on a lower altitude. So there was we were sort of we had some sort of scares deep down, but the drivers came, and I think the cars might have been surprised by themselves, because they're actually able to perform like that in that area. But it's always a big factor, because I think for the guys coming to Masinga, they don't have to worry about what was in their minds when they actually went to Nyahururu. Yeah, because the way the cars take the air in, the quality of air in high altitude areas like Nyahururu is always going to be different compared to what you're going to get in Masinga. The oxygen levels are lower, which means the combustion is less. Yeah, so I think going to Masinga, that is something that they don't have to worry about anymore. Okay. Yeah. The tracks, the difference, the surface on which they were driving? I think because it was happening in Nyahururu for the first time, there were guys who were speaking about the issue about traction, like for the racing between the GTR and the bikers. But for Masinga, it's actually different because that is a track that has always done this kind of thing for a very long time. If you speak to some of the seasoned drivers, they've actually gone to Masinga and they've done their things in Masinga. So that is actually something that is going to be a big plus as well as we go to Masinga. The kind of a track you're going to get is different compared to what we had in Nyahururu as well. Of course, Nyahururu was able to handle it, but being the first time, there were some observations that were made. But as we go to Masinga, it's going to be much better.
Well, and if you were to describe the Masinga track, how would you, because it's actually within the Kenyan lands, and that's their airstrip.
Yeah.
How would you describe it? With the open sides, if there is any wind breaking up items around it.
No, I think it's for me. I think it's the best in the country. I think for the races that I've attended, because it's a wide track. It's actually long enough to accommodate those kinds of cars as they go, as they carry along that kind of performance to the end. There is also enough room for them to actually cool down and do that kind of stuff. So crowd control as well for Masinga is actually going to be more decent than what we have always had, because for most of the time guys tend to crowd the upper sections of the runway as opposed to going to the lower end. Yeah, so I think even for crowd control it's going to be much easier as compared to maybe other tracks.
Why would somebody want to be at the start point, not at the finish point?
What happens is that every guy has, everyone has a phone these days. You want to post things on social media. You want guys to see how maybe a GTR came off the track against an Audi at a 7. Everybody wants to see that. So you're always going to have, you have about 100 guys trying to get that. There is a guy on the extreme end trying to get that as well. So that is actually what happens. So guys, everyone tries to get what happens when the race actually begins, so that they can go out and launch those arguments against stuff like, Quattro, the launch was superior than what we had in this other car. Yeah, there is always going to be that aspect as well.
So let's now talk about how someone gets to register and basically train for to drive these supercars.
No, for the registration, if you want to register as a driver or maybe buy your ticket as a spectator, you have to go to sunsetgt.org. Mm-hmm. You have to log in. And after that, maybe you can go and you can scroll down and purchase your tickets. Of course, we have group tickets and individual tickets, and drivers actually have to follow the same procedure. They have to log into sunsetgt.org and actually get to register their cars. For the training, what happens is that most of the guys, I think at least 80% of the guys who come to these events are guys who have been driving these cars. Then maybe you have one guy who wants to come in and try something new. Sunset Coast is actually open because when we went to Nyahururu, there was a guy who was racing in a Nissan Skyline crossover. Actually, there was a guy in a Mazda Demio with a diesel engine. You're always going to have those kinds of guys. So the thing you have to make sure is that if you have a wide track and these are guys who have been driving for some time, they can actually control their vehicles. It's actually an open avenue for someone, because at the end of the day, everyone has to start from somewhere again. Yeah.
And this is straight line driving.
Yeah, this is straight line driving.
So then we know how sports is classified. For example, in the safari, we know there is Rally 1, Rally 2, Rally 3. So then how do you try get that, what you would say, almost an even, a level playing field, such that if someone comes with their Corolla or basically, the standard road car with, say, about 110 horsepower, don't compete against somebody who's got a car with 220.
So the first thing that happens is that these guys have to go for time trials. So the one where they lay cones, and then you have to go to make your way around the cones, go all the way around, and your time is actually recorded. So I think that is actually the first step that happens. So from that one, it is then the judges then decide which cars will actually make it to the drag race event, because you don't want to put a Toyota Starlet in the same track against a Nissan GTR. I think it once happened sometime. I was speaking to some guys. It actually happened a while back in some other event, and guys actually say that was one of the worst races they've ever seen. So time trials, that is the first stage. If you can get it past that, then you're actually on a decent path to face the other guys with a much powerful cars.
So you've got this single elimination drag, and you've got the Gymkhana race. Tell us about those things.
No, for the gymkhana, it's actually for the time trial thing where you lay the cones and the guys go around for that. Then you have the drag race. The drag race is where you come after the gymkhana and you meet the other guys. Someone tells you, I saw you in that. Now this is the path. Now you can actually, there is always the guys making excuses. Someone's going to say, now my car was small or too big for that kind of thing. But now for the drag race, it's going to be like this. So for the drag race, it's always very simple. The first car to get to the stretch line, to get to the finishing line is the winner. And the last one,
and it's 2 cars at a time.
Yeah, it's 2 cars at a time.
So eventually, what's the heat system? There are those who say we're going to have the heats. So you've got run 1, run 2, run 3. How do you manage this? Or is it straight elimination?
No, guys actually get a lot of chances. I think for most of the time it's always up to stage 3 or 4. You get your chances, and then there is a stage where now they say, now your results are not what going into the final stage of it. Yeah.
Timing and ensuring that this actually happens. We know that, for example, if it's rallying, there's the timing equipment and how it works. How does this work?
For the drag race, yeah. For the drag race, I think it's always straightforward. You have to get to the line first.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what about when they take a look at your timings? If you are to go through 3 heats of that as you try, make your way up
for the time trials, that is actually done.
Yes, when you're actually doing the drag, when you say you have the first run and you say, let me take a second one, how do they then compare the two?
I think for most of the time they tend to look at how the race came to the finish line over actually the timing. That is actually what they do, because if you've had 4 chances to race and you've actually come as the last one in all those races, now that begins raising eyebrows. Now guys say, now let us try a new guy. Let a new guy try and come into this one. But there are always a lot of aspects that govern actually how the thing happens, because again, for traction, the way it happens, if you put a guy who has a rear-wheel driven vehicle in the same category at first against a guy with a
front-wheel driven
car, yeah,
or all-wheel drive.
Yeah. There is someone who is always going to have an advantage. So you always try to put guys who are equally matched in terms of the drivetrains into the earlier categories of it, and then when it comes to the end, and a guy who was driving a rear-wheel driven car gets to meet a guy with an all-wheel driven car. Yeah, that is how it ends. Yeah.
So who's got the advantage here, front wheel or rear wheel?
I think for most of the time it's actually the guys with the front wheel, because rear wheel driven cars can actually get the job done, because if you have a car like a BMW M5, that is actually a very proper car. But now what matters is that if you are able to launch it off the line correctly, it's going to be a big deal for you. If you are unable to do that, yeah, you're always going to be on the fighting end of it.
Well, I've always had the stories from rally drivers. They say if you can control the rear-wheel drive car, then the front-wheel drive car should be an easy game for you. And, when taking a look at this, there's something people always ask about, spectator safety. How do you try to keep these people? Because there is something about petrol heads of any form, whether they're the drivers or this, they always want to be next to the car. How do you manage that?
I think for what we've done over the 2 events, we actually have marshals at the event. It is the role of the marshals to make sure that guys don't come to a certain range closer to the track. You always have to make sure that they're at a safe distance, because anything can always happen with these kinds of cars when someone is driving at that speed. So actually, the marshals play a big role in that. And then there are always markings where you try to make sure that guys don't cross. And when that happens, I think it happened a lot in Nyahururu over last time when the GTR was racing against the bikers. But what we did was that before that race actually started, we had to stall the entire thing, and I make sure that guys were back to their places actually, because anything can always happen again. So that is actually one of the things that is actually a high priority for us.
Well, the other one is the refueling of these cars. We know that if you've got a car that's 1,500 horsepower with the kind, it's basically on steroids, then also the fuel consumption is huge. How do you manage this, refuel zones and fuel safety?
No, I think for the last time we went out we actually provided fuel for the drivers. There was avgas. They actually made use of avgas. You don't have to use a lot of it. You actually take some of it, and you mix it with the normal fuel, and then the guys have to go against that. But when it comes to the refueling again, the guys actually have setups in different locations where after you are out of the truck and you want to refuel, there is always a safe area you can go to and actually get that done for you.
So basically tell me, the common word to me would be something like adulteration. If I go pick my super petrol and you give me aviation gas, so how does this work?
Actually, you know, if you're coming to such an event, you need a better quality of fuel, which is in most situations, guys tend to use V-Power, because it's actually the recommended standard for racing, and actually avgas actually does some magic to it again. So that is actually the most important thing. I don't think it would be wiser to use avgas using the normal fuel that you're going to be getting from anywhere again. Yeah, it's not wise to do that.
All right. So what's the risk of trying to mix these premium fuels and avgas?
Okay, you're always going to have a chance of maybe blowing up your engine. Anything can happen. You can drive your car, but after some time you're going to have serious engine issues as a result of the kind of fuel that you're running. Yeah, that is a high risk.
And when you have this kinds of events, they draw people from all walks of life. You'd have to speak about that. What has been the response of the communities in Masinga and Nyahururu?
We've actually gotten a lot of positive feedback from these guys. I think it's actually the guys in Nyahururu cannot even believe it that we are actually going to Masinga this time. I think most of the guys, if we were to ask them, would want us to go back, but I think it's something that is going, because it has to go around. It's something that we have to do. But then again, if you go back to those guys, I think the rate of positivity that you get from them is actually always very high, because it means a lot for them, especially in terms of business as well. You have hotels in those areas. You have guys who are selling drinks. You have those kinds of people. So they're always going to look at opportunities like those ones to maybe boost their events. And it actually raises the profile of a certain area. Because I think before we went to Nyahururu, I think there were actually very few guys who even knew that an airstrip actually existed there. Most of the guys didn't know about that before we went there. So it actually raises the profile of the area you're going to again. Yeah.
The other one is just taking a look at, from your statistics and attendance, over 30 race cars eventually. And there's something that's, will be competing with your event, and there's a case of shared cars. Do you have this at your events?
No, there is none that I've heard of so far. But I think because there is another event that is going on in the same county, I think you can only
anyway over 100 kilometers away, so you don't have to worry.
I don't think there is much to worry about, because I think a Sunset Costa has been laid down and it's happening. We have guys who have already registered. We believe they will be coming, and actually wish the other guys all the best as well.
What are the kind of numbers what's the registration numbers at the moment?
No, I think we're actually looking at good numbers, because maybe if I was to go to the previous events, we're looking at like 2,000. I think this time we can actually do much better than that.
Those are the fans.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Participants. Okay, let me use the term competitors.
No, for the competitors, you always have guys registering up to the very last minute. There is a guy who will come in on Friday at 2 p.m. and say, "Now I want to race." So you're always looking at that, but we're looking at least 30, 40. Yeah. What's always manageable? Because there are standards to it. We had a Formula 1 event last night. They always say a track is about 22 full grid is 22 cars. For the WRC Safari, they say at the moment they're looking at max 50 cars. Yeah, I think for us we're looking at about if we can get at least maybe 20, which we will get, maybe 20, 30, that is actually a very decent number for actually a 2-day event. Yeah. And eventually, what's the outcome? How do you manage the prizes for this? I think for the prizes, they're always going to different categories. You have guys winning in the time trials. You have guys who win in the drag race events, and you have guys who come out as the overall winners. A guy went to the time trials for one. He's come to the drag race again, he has won. So they're actually categorized into all those different categories. Yeah.
So tell us how then you put together the categories. I'm trying to think that if someone comes with a car with 220 horsepower, how do you then put, classify these people basically on, say, by limits of horsepower?
I think
the same way you have in boxing, you have a middleweight, a light, heavyweight, a heavyweight.
Yeah, I think the whole thing is set up is that we always start with the drivetrain they're running. If a guy has a rear-wheel driven car, front-wheel drive or an all-wheel drive, you always try to put them into those categories at first. Yeah, so then the guys that will make it to the end and come out on top of their categories, now they can be able to meet up against the other guys.
Oh, so basically it's rear wheel against rear wheel, front wheel against front wheel, bike against bike.
Yeah, and then now when you get to the final stages, now guys with different trains can meet. Yeah.
Eventually, how then do you get to spread this sport around the country and speaking to people so that they understand that if, for example, they decide to go to, let's see, there's an airstrip somewhere in there's an airstrip in Eldoret just beside, not only the airport, there's also an airstrip in Eldoret if you're to now use the smaller facility there.
I think the first thing that you always do is that you have to communicate to the Civil Aviation Authority in time, so that even inspections can be done. You can pick an airstrip somewhere, but then when you get to it, you get told that the condition of that airstrip does not reach the standards that you need for that kind of an event. So that is always the first thing that you do. But for most of the time, these things tend to go to the airstrips that are already set up and have a certain reputation, because with Sunset Costa, we're trying to do it differently. We're trying to get to as much places as possible. We want to raise awareness. We want this thing to become like a national sort of thing, something that a guy can say, now we have an airstrip in Kisii, and maybe you can be able to consider that. We don't want to be biased with certain locations. Yeah, so that is something that we're actually looking into.
Well, and obviously for you, it's easy. Masinga, you know about it. And also the other one is Nyahururu. Now, the other one is something that people may want to ask. We've seen some incidents happen, and this is all about road safety and motorsport. And even for the FIA, the global body, they're saying, look, you may be getting more powerful cars, but how do you promote safety such that even if your car has a boost, you don't have to go, proving it to everyone on any road?
Yeah, I think for what we do differently is that for most of the time it's actually something that we write about in our social media platforms. It's something that we speak about. It's something that we do videos about. We tend to raise awareness about it. We always advise drivers going into such events that the track is where you're supposed to be racing. You're not supposed to be trying to beat a certain guy, an innocent guy driving to a certain location when you're driving on a normal road. So we always speak about it on our social media platforms. We do videos about it. We encourage guys to drive safely, and we do that kind of thing. And for most of the time, they tend to listen to what we have to say. Yeah.
Eventually, now, when it comes about drag racing, this is basically sprint racing, where you've got a track. It's about 1 kilometer long, and you do the timing. The other one that we would like to ask is interest from other countries, Tanzania, Uganda, or how do you relate with these other racing communities in East Africa?
I think one of the biggest communities that actually exist when it comes to cars is the racing community, because I think when we went to Nyahururu, there were guys from Tanzania. I think there was a guy who had a BMW M135. It was actually from Tanzania, and it's something that we are actually looking to. We are expecting to have more drivers from different countries, so that we can be able to meet with them and maybe get to know a thing or two about what they do differently. I think it's actually very important for such an event as well. Yeah.
Now, as this grows, we've seen, I'll use the example of time trial, or basically tarmac racing, as it was. Eventually, they affiliated themselves to the Kenya Motorsport Federation, such that they can now organize events and they can have a calendar the same way, how would I say, the raids or autocross and communities have their events. what's the process of getting recognized such that this is now a full competitive sport?
It's actually something that we've been looking into for some time, because I think for you to get that kind of recognition, you need to work with the relevant authorities. First of all, you need to be able to work with authorities like the civil aviation. Again, you need to be able to be in good terms with the local authorities. Maybe if you go to counties, you can create a rapport with them. That is something that is very important, because that is where you start from, so that the next time you tell a guy in Kisii County, now we're coming to race in Kisii, or it was in Gishu County, they may be able to have a look and say, now, these guys actually did well in Hururu and they did well in Machakos. I think it's something that we can actually give them a chance to do. And I think for Sunset Kosa, most guys are already looking at that, because from what has gone down, especially in Hururu, I think most counties would be very happy to open doors for us.
What about working with the Kenya Motorsport Federation? What's the plan for that?
I think that is something that is also in the works. Our partners from Daimler Motorsports Kenya, I think they've been doing that for some time. So we are actually looking to much bigger things as we progress.
Then everyone asks, if you're going to enter, what's required of you minus the car in terms of cost, entry fees, things like that?
No, I think for like 90% of the thing is actually the entry fee. If you can be able to register your car and you've been allowed to enter, fine. But if you're a spectator and you can get your ticket, it's actually open to everyone.
All right. So basically, all I need to do is my car is my entry fee.
Yeah. If you have a car and you're looking to race, that is actually fine. But for a spectator, all you need is actually your ticket. It's actually a very open event.
So here it is, as with every event. Now, Byron, what I would like you to do is, take us through some of the names of, the Sunset Coast top racers, the drivers, and the kind of equipment they may have. You could take us through some of the names. There's always you'll see the same way we would say that yellow car belongs to Karan Patel or that red car belongs to Ian Duncan. How then would you take us through some of the confirmed field or people who you are always with?
I think one of the guys who will be coming special to Masinga is that a guy called Kim. Guys on social media know him as GTR Tanuki. It's actually named after his car, the Nissan GTR, the one with the 1500 horsepower. That is one of the cars we'll be looking at. But also be looking at F.U. Ashira, who's been racing with one of a Subaru. I think it's from the 80s or the 90s. It's actually a car that has been around for some time. There's a guy called Jafo. He has a red Subaru STI, bad guy for that matter. Yeah, so those are some of the guys we're going to be looking at.
And no, you haven't mentioned a blue Subaru yet.
Actually, F.U. Ashira drives one. Yeah. So we're looking at, again, Kim with the GTR. We're looking at Jafo with the Subaru. Actually, there are two Subarus. But for most of the time, I think the last two times, the GTIs and the Golfs have actually come on top.
What about for you?
I think I'm more of a spectator.
I'm organized and behind the scenes.
Yeah, I'm more of that guy. Actually, I'm only looking to the fun that is going to come out of the event. Yeah.
And everyone asks, all around this event, there are sideshows that tend to come up all the time. People may want to have, the entertainment around it. What are you trying to do and make sure that, you don't leave the Kenyan grounds as a mess? At times you go for an event and it's extremely littered.
I think what you have to do, for you to have an event like this one, I think guys are always going to be looking at the entertainment bit of it first. There are guys who are actually coming to party over the racing, but we always try to have guys who can actually do the cleanups after the event, because there's always going to be littering, especially when guys go for food from vendors and that kind of thing. So cleaning is always organized after the event. That is something that will actually be done, so that the next time we go and tell them we want to host an event, they'll actually open doors for us again.
All right. Thank you very much, Byron Omondi. And speaking about the Sunset Kosa, drag racing. This is where you do a kilometer, 2 cars, most of them on steroids, and also the bikes. Thank you very much. See Masinga on the 9th and the 10th of July. And as we come to a close of this program, let us move over to the Kenyatta International Convention Center. And this is where we have got the inauguration of the Nairobi International Financial Center Authority. And speaking now is the Cabinet Secretary to the Treasury, Ambassador Ukur Yatani. My name is Daniel Wahome. After the Financial Center Authority inauguration, we'll be coming back with Kurunzi Mashinani and Tamrini.
Go to greater heights of success. Ladies and gentlemen, the strength and attractiveness of Kenya's financial sector is evident in the growth and expansion of our banks in the larger East African region, as well as the ICT-driven innovation and the agility of the financial services sector through mobile money, with increasing opportunities emerging across the continent. I do not want to really belabor so much on this, that we are doing well, and we are a leader in this sector, particularly the ICT, the mobile money transfer. And now we're exporting our expertise to the next region, to the next countries. And one of them was actually mentioned by the chair, that we have taken our position in Ethiopia, one of the big markets for our products. Ladies and gentlemen, the Nairobi International Financial Center is expected to provide important avenue for business in Africa to exploit opportunities presented by the African Continental Free Trade Area by facilitating investment and trading in sub-Saharan Africa. We need to run with this. As a leader and with the very many success that we've already registered, the free trade area now, the African free trade area gives us the opportunity to lead the process. And I think this is part of the dream and a facilitator of the same. In particular, NIFCA will focus on green finance, financial technology, investment funds, positioning Kenya as the hub for the regional multinational corporations. These areas of focus present the best growth opportunities for the continent, as well as the increasing importance of green finance and financial technology in future economic growth. I think we have covered also great milestones in the area of green financing. And I want to thank our partners who have worked with us through this journey into making this a success. Distinguished guests, I want to assure that the National Treasury will continue to support NIFCA Authority by facilitating the necessary fiscal, financial, and human resource for it to reach the desired positions. This will definitely create opportunities that's going to enable financial sector growth in the region, while also aiming at being the most competitive institutions globally, because we set our standards not at the local level but at the international level. I also want to reiterate that the launch of this institution is coming at a time when, as a country, we've had significant, particularly our domestic economy, we've had significant growth. Last year we registered a growth of 7.5% of GDP, unprecedented. The last time we grew at that was over 11 years ago. We've just recently launched our Q1 report, the economic report, January to March, where our economy grew at 6.8. Sometimes we get carried away by the temporary challenges that we see. A lot of it is as a result of external shocks. You know the issue of fuel prices. You also appreciate the challenges that's going on in Eastern Europe, Russia, Ukraine, that has really completely destabilized the global economy. Those, in my view, those are temporary challenges, but as an economy, we are well on course, and we are growing, and we've covered tremendous success, particularly after the recovery of the COVID-19. I want to thank our partners who have worked with us through this journey, the National Treasury team, the Director General, Albert Mwenda, who is here. Albert, please just stand up. I know you've worked with this. You've been very instrumental. They have been very consistent in ensuring that this sees the light of the day and finally is here, and we are very happy. We are also grateful and thank the board. Despite the initial take-off challenges, we are finally now on course. And you have driven this matter very, very vigorously. I think without further ado, it's now my distinct honor to invite Dr. Kinyua, who is representing the president to deliver the speech. And the purpose as why I felt Dr. Kinyua is actually, if the president is available, is the right person, is that it was during his time at the Treasury and the President, Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta, that this idea was mooted. And finally we are here. Dr. Kinyua, welcome.
Thank you very much, CS Yatan, for those kind words. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I still think we are 1 minute before we get to the latter part of the day. Let me start by passing a word of apology for he really would have wanted to be with you.
Please don't waste my time, okay?
Wewe kama wataka niambie mimi nikupeleke pale ambapo mimi wanachukua nguo zangu na wewe uchague zako.
Ni kuwa labda ni wanidharau mimi kama mke wako.
You're not a weak CEO. You never have, so don't start now.
Things won't be done my way and how I want it.
I really hate being his son.
There will be obstacles between you.
What kind of obstacles?
It's something that could come between you and force you to take different paths.
Oh, Mother.
The reason I came to Puerto Esperanza wasn't to see Beto. It was to see you.
Leave me alone, Rutilio. Just leave me alone.
Stop repeating the same thing over and over. I know that Paulina was on the list you gave me, but I decided to take her off.
Why? How dare you take my witness off the list?
I told you I didn't like her, but you didn't care.
As campaign intensified for the upcoming general election, what does all this mean for you, the voter? What do the candidates have to offer? How prepared are agencies charged with the election process? Join John Kuria and Safina Chieng on Kenya Decides. This and every Tuesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 as we unpack elections 2022 with a panel of various stakeholders. Make informed electoral decisions.
And come up with the best way we as a nation could have a robust financial sector capable of raising funds for projects, support innovation, and tap into the new investments that are coming to Africa. Developing Nairobi as an international financial center was therefore born out of our deliberations on the most effective framework that we needed to achieve this particular objective. So, ladies and gentlemen, the world today is very different to that obtained 14 years ago. But the case for Nairobi International Financial Center is even more compelling. Ladies and gentlemen, the world continues to face numerous challenges, as you have heard from CS Yatani. Climate change, the Russia-Ukraine conflict, which has generated growth and inflation risks globally, and the ever-resurging character of the COVID-19 pandemic. We thought we had been able to contain the challenge, but I can tell you, if you're next to my office, we have some people who have gotten into that problem. But despite of all these challenges, opportunities exist to innovate and build solutions that improve lives. Indeed, we can choose to turn some of these crises into opportunities. We as a country adapted to the challenges created by the COVID-19 pandemic by pivoting and producing locally made face masks, syringes, and other medical items necessary to contain the pandemic. We also transformed service delivery through the use of technology and captured e-commerce to unparalleled levels. So, ladies and gentlemen, we must continue with a spirit to make even bolder efforts at innovating and making improvement despite the challenges. We must never be afraid to try. In pursuit of this goal, I can confidently say that we have not only tried, but have succeeded in cementing Nairobi's pride and praise in our journey towards being the international financial service envisioned in our Vision 2030. Indeed, Kenya has made significant strides in developing the most dynamic and vibrant economy in East and Central Africa, as you have heard. First, when you look at our labor force, it's recognized among the most highly educated and productive in Africa, anchored on our elaborate education training institutional framework that responds to the global changing dynamics. Our people have access to more social services than ever before, with enhancement continually being undertaken to improve and entrench these across the length and breadth of the Republic. Secondly, my administration has and continues to focus on key reforms across the business and financial services spectrum, including the full automation of business registration services, automation of the large registration processes, adoption of e-payment and e-filing services in the High Court, and fully operationalizing the small claims court to resolve disputes, especially those that involve small and medium enterprises, within a record time of 60 days. We have similarly automated and streamlined the payment of taxes and redesigned the import and export processes in order to reduce costs and improve efficiency of our ports. Our infrastructure, as you have heard, stands in competition to capital cities in more developed parts of the world, with the recent launch of the Nairobi Expressways securing efficient and timely connectivity across the capital. Ladies and gentlemen, Kenya's digital connectivity, as has been elaborated by the chair, ranks among the best in Africa, which positions us well to attract some of the world's most exciting startups and some of the world's largest technology companies. Kenya is known as a leading innovation hub, and we have seen world-leading players in technology anchor their Africa operations in Nairobi. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in the midst of the fourth industrial revolution, where increasing connectivity and smart automation are catalyzing rapid changes in technology that are in turn re-engineering almost every aspect of how we live and work. We have seen how mobile money and other forms of financial innovation have transformed millions of lives, including bringing new financial services to millions who in the past were unbanked. Our energy infrastructure, which also the chair mentioned, is robust and among the cleanest and greenest in the world. Kenya's power generation capacity is already over 90% renewable, and we are actively exploring a range of avenues to catalyze green growth in all sectors of the economy. We have proven our ability to conceptualize and deliver complex, large-scale infrastructure projects, including the installation of the 300 megawatt wind power project in Lake Turkana, completion of the standard gauge rail, and the construction of Lamu Port. Kenya is home to extraordinary biodiversity, and we have a long-standing environmental stewardship and advocacy. As you may have seen, the head of state has really been doing a lot in those areas. It is time to invest in our natural capital in a way that goes beyond conservation and beyond philanthropy. Our ecosystem of green economy, institutions, and business innovators have already created a momentum through the development of the Green Board framework in Kenya. and the National Treasury is working closely with key stakeholders to deepen the domestic debt markets and improve pricing and efficiency to reduce the cost of capital for development of green projects. Ladies and gentlemen, these, among other attractions, provided good reason for Google to open its first African Product Development Center in Nairobi earlier this year. Microsoft also already followed, opening a $27 million US technology here in Nairobi. And in November last year, you recall the president of the European Investment Bank was in the country to officially open the bank's regional hub that will cover 11 countries in Eastern and Central Africa. Visa already has opened its first African Innovation Studio in Nairobi. Indeed, last year saw international investors invest about $571 million US in equity and venture capital funding in technology-based businesses alone. It is therefore clear that the work that we have done so far to enhance Nairobi's position as the gateway to the region is bearing fruit. So, ladies and gentlemen, the Nairobi International Financial Center has been designed as an efficient and predictable business environment, which we expect to give more confidence to the large pools of global capital that have been watching our progress but have not yet taken the decision to invest. We know investors have options, and we want to achieve to actively choose them to come to Kenya. The center has and will continue to play a significant role in promoting the initiatives outlined above to target investors. I'm proud to see that Prudential Press has made good its goal to make Nairobi its African home as the first firm in Nairobi International Financial Center, which I believe we already have been informed, and something else will be happening a bit later. Through the center, coupled with establishment of market-friendly regulatory oversight, will create an ecosystem that supports the financial structuring of business in the country. The recent partnership between the center and the City UK in London has enabled Kenya to engage a wide range of policymakers and investors. We know it is not enough to share information about the center and the opportunities that abound in Nairobi. Action must be visible, and today I say we are here to listen to you, the investors, and to play an active facilitating role so that you can commit to us with confidence. The center's focus on attracting green financing, for example, is a strategic enabler of our broader green economy strategy, including developing our green manufacturing capacity by connecting energy-intensive manufacturers to cheaper renewable sources of energy. I'm also informed that the center intends to kickstart the carbon market and enable Kenyan and regional businesses to access an international voluntary carbon market at their doorstep. I think this is very, very welcome because it goes very well with even what we are trying to do to ensure on challenges relating to climate change are indeed sorted out. Ladies and gentlemen, Kenya has first comparative advantages in the carbon offset space, including abundant offset eligible project potential. Through this initiative, we will be leveraging existing verification models and brokering networks to standardize, regulate, and promote Kenya's existing production of carbon offset activities internationally. The center's partnership with Air Carbon Exchange and the Nairobi Securities Exchange will therefore be a significant milestone for Kenya. And finally, we all have witnessed how mobile money and other forms of financial technology have transformed millions, as I did earlier mention, lives of Kenya and across the continent. The center can play a key role in creating the right environment for financial innovation and new technologies to continue to evolve and improve the lives of many more of our people. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is only the beginning. significant opportunities exist across the entire green economy, from green transport, industry, buildings, food production, and waste management. Kenya can play a leading role across all these sectors. As I conclude, I want to praise a challenge to the center. For it to be considered successful in its endeavor, it must be a catalyst for new levels of investment and growth. The center must crowd in investment that otherwise would not have been committed. It must accelerate the development of a conducive investment framework that supports economic growth. It must be bold in taking steps that challenge the status quo in order to support innovation, and it must work closely with key stakeholders to improve the efficiency and predictability. When a seed is sown, that is just the beginning. The harvest comes only after much toil to create the right conditions for growth and paying close attention to the environmental conditions that threaten your crop. The center must bear the weight and height of our proud vision of plenty within our borders. The foundation we have established has set a course for our ship aimed for the shores of a shared prosperity for all and a sustained economic growth for our country. Ladies and gentlemen, we gave the center team the mandate to develop the foundation for the growth of Nairobi as an international financial center. And I must say, I'm encouraged by the progress Ragwe and your team have made, and even the CS Treasurer, because I know Treasury behind has done also quite a lot. In closing, I say simply this: may the Nairobi International Financial Center grow strong roots, and may our hard work reap abundant rewards for all Kenyans. I'm confident that through the center, the future of our country will remain bright and the promise of greatness and prosperity assured. Finally, it is now my distinguished honor and privilege to declare the Nairobi International Financial Center officially open as I can sign.
Na mtazamaji, ni picha za moja kwa moja ambazo zinajia kutoka kwenye ukumbi wa kimataifa wa KICC hapa jijini Nairobi, na ambaye amekuwa akizungumza ni katibu au mkuu wa utumishi wa umma Dr. Joseph Kinyua, akizungumzia kuhusiana na masuala ya wekezaji katika mkutano wa ufunguzi wa kituo maalum cha hazina ya mamlaka ya kimataifa ya hapa jijini Nairobi, kuzungumzia vile vile